Well, hello. These are the instructions for how I want you to complete Chapter 2. These will look very similar to Chapter 1, but unlike Chapter 1, where you're doing cause and effect, what you're going to be doing in Chapter 2 is writing an analysis of first, disordered attachment, and secondly, forgiveness. So the slides are going to be actually a little shorter. It's not as complicated, or it just doesn't take as much words to create the product. So the very first thing you're going to see is this landing page. Then there'll be a part 1 where you summarize the definition, part 2 where 2A where you plan how you're going to respond, part 2B where you actually write up your own description or your analysis of a disordered attachment in your own life, and then in part 3 you're going to say how you're going to explain how Brackley would analyze this, and I've given you some framing for that here. So let's go through these sections one by one. So on part 1, the first thing you're going to notice is I want you to summarize Brackley's definition of indifference, and I've given you the slide or the page depending on what thing you're looking for in assignment 3.1. Then I want you to go find the Oxford English definition of indifference and put that here, and then I want you to write, and your opening paragraph should explain what's different about the way Brackley uses the term indifference and the way that we normally use the term indifference. Here I'm using the Oxford English Dictionary. Then you'll write that paragraph up here. Perfect. The next thing you're going to do is then you're going to plan how you want to, how thoroughly you want to write up the discussion. So this is should look very similar to the previous chapter. If you do all of the red, you get 13 out of 20. You have to do parts 1 and part 3, but part 2 will determine your grade or determine how much the different point values. So if you do parts 1, part 2, and the least amount of this one, if you do just the red boxes, you get 13 points. The red and the yellow boxes, there's 16 points. Red, yellow, and green is 18 out of the 20 points. And if you do if you write everything, you can get 20 out of 20. So what you're going to be doing here is analyzing some area of your life where you have a disordered attachment. So as many of you could probably guess, I'm not the healthiest eater because I'm overweight. So this doesn't have to be an enormous thing. I'm going to talk about a disordered attachment that I have. I eat too much. So, and then I'm going to describe 3 traits of that. And so if I do just one trait and I talk about my disordered attachment and one trait, that's a 13. If I describe 3 traits, that's a 16 out of 20. If I describe how each of those, the causes and effects of why the trait disorders my attachment. So why is it eating is not bad. Why does wanting to clean my plate disorder the attachment to eating? So that's what I would talk about there. I would talk about the cause and the effect of that disorder. Same thing with these other 2. That would be the 18. And then I'm going to try for the 20 out of 20. So I'm going to evaluate each of the 3 traits as they can and tell them which one contributes, how each one contributes to the disordered attachment overall. Then I write up what I wrote or what I planned on the next slide here in part 2B. So there's my paragraphs. Notice they're paragraphs. They're small, but remember a paragraph is an idea. So it's okay for me if you're writing smaller things with a lot of tight paragraphs. Then in the final section, what I want you to do is I want you to basically, what advice do you think Brackley would give you? So here it is. I give you this thing on inner freedom. What advice would you think Brackley would give you? I write that up. I summarize that in a topic sentence, and then I write it here. So then when I'm done, I'll submit this, and then I'll give you feedback. Then when it comes time to turning in the whole chapter, I'm just going to copy and paste the white boxes from parts 1, 2, and 3. So there's 3. There's the white box in part 2. There's the white box in part 1. So that's the section. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, I look forward to, you can always meet with me, and I look forward to hearing your questions and discussing this with you in class. Good luck.